Everybody, Bruce Shooter here with the Mental Health Warrior Program podcast, No Surrender. Now, we're going to keep talking about how to be a mental health warrior. We have lots of open conversations about mental health. We have conversations about the struggles I've been through with bipolar disorder, alcoholism, anxiety disorders. Today, I want to shock you. I want to give you a revelation that shocked me. And I believe it's going to shock you too, but in a good way. And this is really exciting because when we talk about mental health, a lot of times we obviously focus on the problems and we focus on our challenges. So there's a very negative connotation to it. And when I first went into this, when I knew I had these challenges, probably even more so, well, definitely more so, when my challenges were officially diagnosed. Now, they didn't get diagnosed in one session. This was over a number of years as we kind of added to the tally, if you will. I guess that's a kind of thing we can joke about today. But again, information, learning about ourselves, it takes time. And over time, I learned about all these different challenges, some which I knew I had but couldn't put a name to. And again, we've talked about how that was a turning point in my life. It was a turning point for you and I because it's a chance to take back that power, which we talked about in another podcast. But one of the pieces that I want to bring up today, and the topic today is, and this is what's going to shock you because initially you have to think it through. And the concept is mental health is a learned skill. And at first you're thinking, okay, I know you can learn some things. I know you can go if you need help, maybe to get started with therapy. You might get started with medications. You just might get started being self-aware. But what we kind of forget is that mental health is something much like my diagnoses occurred over time. Well, the skills to handle those challenges, the skills to triumph over them as a mental health warrior, well, they also will take some time. And that means it's a learned skill. Now, of course, in life, we look at things like our careers. We look at jobs. We look at things as simple as even riding a bike. And after years of riding a bike, for a long time, at one point, I was riding my bike a lot, doing things like triathlons, biathlons, where you combine it with running, biking, swimming. The reason I bring that up is the first couple times I did it, riding the bike or going to swim these distances, it was a challenge to learn the right skills. And at that point, I thought, boy, I've mastered the skills. I can ride the bike. I can ride and do 20, 30, 50 miles. And I have even ridden at one point 100 miles in a day. They have things called centuries you could ride the bikes on. Again, I'm pretty sure that you realize that riding 100 miles doesn't come from going out Saturday and Sunday, doing a little training, and on Monday, you go to ride 100 miles. Well, it was the same with learning to ride and swim and get ready for these triathlons. And one of the things that happened, though, was I was all prepared and went to my first event. What I hadn't learned to do was swim with 250 other people, all heading out into a lake for a turnaround around a buoy. Now, you can imagine you start out and you're a little spread out, but as you get further along, all of a sudden you realize how many swimmers are around you and you're going almost over top of them. And it's a great story because it showed me, oh boy, I have a lot to learn. But again, like I'm saying with mental health, after I did a couple of events, I learned how to get around that buoy without getting sunk by the other 50 to 100 people trying to turn at the same time. Same thing with riding on a course, same thing with the running part. You learn how to work within a group. You learn to pace yourself. Perhaps the road is very hilly. You can't pass, or you can't pass because you're going up the hill and you need to put something in reserve. So when you get to the top, you can keep going. Much like mental health. The whole process of doing the races and learning all of those skills suddenly dawned on me as my mental health challenges came up, I needed to apply that same principle. And I realized, and this is where I'm really excited, and I want to share this with you today, and make sure you let it sink in. But mental health is a learned skill, which means essentially, just like everything else in life, we all start at the beginning. We all start at square one, not knowing how to ride bikes, not knowing how to swim, not knowing how to process emotions. And a lot of times, like myself included, I jump in the deep end quicker maybe than some other people because as I was an EMT during high school and college, I saw a lot of things that other people didn't experience till later in their life or maybe even never for a long time. Again, I was ill prepared, but it didn't matter where it hit them in my journey because everybody in life is going to see some tough challenges and tough situations that will occur. Just like as I progressed in my training, again, things get tougher, but your skill set's going up too. So always remember that. You're building those skills, which is the definition of a learned skill. And that is really, really amazing and really powerful. And I want to impress upon you today that mental health is just like other things in life that you can learn and get really good at, get powerful in, that you'll be able to handle increasingly difficult emotions or difficult situations that bring out those challenging emotions. Because as we move along, we may go to school, we start those first jobs, we start several jobs, or along the way, we get those bumps in the road and we learn how to handle if we lose a job or need to change or move to another location. All challenges that have good end results, and we're doing it for a great purpose, but they get tougher and tougher as we go. But in the back pocket, in your back pocket as a mental health warrior, you can remember and always remember the strength you gain from knowing that mental health is a learned skill. Now, when I put this down, and it's in the first book. So I put this down because it was such an amazing revolution, or it just revealed something to me that was so obvious, but I hadn't seen. I put this into the first book. I triumphed over bipolar, alcoholism, and anxiety disorders by becoming a mental health warrior. I did it to remind myself, and I'm doing it to share the information with you. It's kind of one of those key cornerstones of being a warrior is to always remember mental health is a learned skill. And the benefits that came, there were three big ones. And today I want to let you in a secret on those. So the first one, and the biggest, and yes, I'm getting over the top. Yes, I'm getting louder. But this is almost earth-shattering, is it told me, Bruce, you have all these challenges, and I'm going to lump them all together and say, how am I going to survive with anxiety disorders? How am I going to survive with alcoholism and bipolar disorder? Some PTSD from some of the things I saw in the rescue squad. Throw in a host of other challenges that are out there. Social anxiety disorder. Now you can imagine right there, you're probably shaking your head and thinking, wow, how does he do that? It's that first point. If mental health is a learned skill, I am not powerless. I am powerful. And that goes for both of us. It goes for you. It goes for me. So the biggest first lesson is if it is a skill we can learn, we can perfect, we can build on with those building blocks, well, guess what? We are not powerless. So I don't care how many challenges you face. I don't care what time or where you're at in your life, or where you're at in the depths of those challenges. And I'm going to use my story as an example of that. Because I didn't get diagnosed with most of these challenges until I was 40 years old. So I stumbled through college. I stumbled through high school. I stumbled through a career in the IT field, numerous companies, getting married, buying a house, buying some cars, buying things, dealing with regular life moving forward while I couldn't handle the emotions that came with each one of those great challenges. And so again, I was still able to, at that age, become a mental health warrior. And I was able to take back control of my life and then continue to be in control of my life, to continue to face those challenges each day. And you can do the same. And that is fantastically exciting. I can't even think of the biggest words. I'm trying to find ones that convey the excitement in just that first powerful thing that knowing mental health is a learned skill conveyed to me and conveys to you, because that is a turning point in life, knowing that we can build that power. Now, I kind of already gave away almost the second one, but the second revelation that came from knowing mental health is a learned skill is learning that I can grow my power. So not only do I have the ability, not be powerless, be powerful, but I have the ability to grow my power. And I have the ability as a warrior. We talk a lot about having our warrior arsenals of mental health tools, mindset rules, and some of the other components of the warrior. And as we start, we can tap into them further and further to build our strength. We can tap into them as a mental health warrior to refine our values, which is one of the 4 components of a warrior. And what you value in life, which stands for the things you want to go after, the things you want to achieve, your interests, also stands for how do I want to live my life? The things I want to pursue, like being sober, like being in charge and not letting depression take me down. Those things set the direction for my life. And as we go over time, that area can grow. It can blossom as we choose new paths. As I mentioned right here in front of you, I'm using my life and the story on it. I started as an EMT, went to college thinking I'd go into the medical field, but ended up going to the IT field. And then from there, due to these mental health challenges and starting this program, I have learned to become an author. I have learned to create designs to illustrate the books. I have put together a program and I'm doing public speaking like we're doing through the podcast, but it's a version of it. And I enjoy it because my anxiety today does not prevent me from doing all those things. We're making those big changes, being able to move if I needed to with life and with jobs and things like that. All things that you, if you struggle with mental challenges like I did, you probably found almost so difficult that a lot of times we would just avoid them at any cost and maybe limit our life. But today, we don't have to, because mental health is firmly and is concretely a learned skill. And as a mental health warrior, you will get the structure. You have the structure through the program, and you have an almost unlimited set of tools, and we're going to use mindset rules and things that you can use throughout the day to combine to always meet life's challenges. So at this point, you're seeing that this learned skill concept we've applied to mental health. I'm pretty sure you're starting to see why I was so excited, and I'm still excited explaining it to you today, because those first 2 pieces, what it showed me I'm not powerless, and I'm also able to grow as I go. Now, the last part, and it's a learned skill. So sometimes we need to remind ourselves, it's again why I wrote it in the book down so we can go back to this. But the last part I want to remind you is we all have this power. And that power is not limited by circumstances. It's not limited by finances. It's not limited by the age you're at. It's not limited in the fact, like I've used my own story and what I've been able to do. And I bring that out not to glorify things, but to show you what can be done. Because before, when I was in my 30s and when I was struggling with all these challenges and certainly didn't even have a real clear direction in my life, and I was spinning in circles, well, that's what drove me to thinking there was no power, no chance of success. And to bring this kind of to a sober moment, if you will, that's what led me to say I didn't want to be part of this life anymore. And that point, I really felt there were no other options because I was powerless and I had no direction and I certainly couldn't see a way out. And that's when I got a second chance, thank God. And that, again, is when I decided to do something about this. And that, too, though, is why I'm excited to bring this to you, because one of the first things I learned as I jumped into learning about my mental health challenges was it's a skill. Even learning to accept the challenges, even getting those diagnoses, even that first few months, years, starting to learn and understand what had happened in my last 20 years. That was eye-opening because I knew I could, again, build on it. I knew it would turn me and make me more powerful as I could manage them and handle them. I also knew that this was available to me even if I kept stumbling, I could keep moving forward because it wouldn't go away. It wasn't limited to any point in your life. And that, again, are the three things that came from knowing mental health is a learned skill. And that power that came with it still resonates within me today in the actions because you can use that. If you get down in depression, if I think back to how things didn't go quite right, and today I'm still struggling in some areas because that's just part of life. We're not going to always triumph over things in 2 seconds. We're also going to struggle sometimes still because the conditions are chronic. But today I know they will not take me down. They won't take over control. And I will keep moving forward. All due to the fact that I can continue to learn and grow, as I call it, or know that it's a learned skill. And I just wanted to bring that up today because I think it's, again, like sometimes I call them the duh rules, or it's so obvious, and yet it's important to state the obvious because a lot of times we're so busy and we're so looking at the problem that we miss that the power or the solution is also right in front of us next to that problem. And in this case, as a mental health warrior, you have the ability to start building those skills, growing that power, building that life you really want. And that is over the top excitement. And that's what we're bringing to you today with this podcast, with that simple statement, with that simple understanding that mental health is like anything else. The classes, the skills you built, or back to my example of riding in the bikes and thinking I knew things until I got to the races and didn't know how to handle the crowds. And then I went to bigger events. And you could see the analogy. You can see where you go and keep growing. Well, that has been the same with getting to know people again, being involved in social activities, doing all the things that anxiety had limited me to and took me to a place where I thought there was no more way out. There was no future. I was stuck. And I'm going to tell you concretely, I'm going to tell you very calmly that that is not true. Because mental health, while again, we may see it and see the problems and the challenges, and we may see them a lot in the news and the media. They're outlined a lot in talks and things like that. I want to bring out that standing right next to them is a powerful solution. And it's mental health also. It has both right there. And today, you can go to bruceshooter.com. Go check out the Mental Health Warrior program because that will give you the tools and the information that we just talked about. There's written things. There's a free book on my site that'll get you started if you like to read. You continue to watch other videos that are available through the site. All of those things right there are you taking the first step in learning about mental health and the power it has and how to unlock that power to be able to triumph over your challenges. So I hope at this point you're pretty excited and you can see why this episode I'm practically bouncing off the screen or bouncing around in my talk because I was so amazed and so empowered, for lack of a better word, to know that mental health is a learned skill. Now, as I mentioned, at this point, I just want to remind you that we have lots of resources out there and lots of things and on bruceshooter.com. So I don't want you to feel like you've left this episode and you're not sure where to go next. Go there. There's blog articles. There's a couple of the mindset rules are up there. You can use them to get started. And again, I like to think of it as at this point, what I'm telling you is it's a learned skill and it's great and it's fun to learn things, but it's also great to put them into action. And so there are tools and things we talked about today that you can use this afternoon or this morning or whenever you're listening to this. You can sign up for this and go start using them today by saying, I can learn this and I can go research things. I can learn about being a warrior. So get excited, and I hope to see you on the site. We're going to keep going with these episodes, keep building our warrior power, because always remember, this is a program built on self-help. And the neat part of self-help is it nicely pairs with a learned skill. So the more effort you put into it each day, the more rewards you get. And I'm telling you that is actually true because when I stay on top of things, when I keep working through things each day, I'm rewarded. And I quickly build a list of things I've managed And the next day, I'm actually amazed at what I managed the day before, which certainly starts the day out on a fantastic note. So leave you with that thought. I'm going to also leave you with one other thought. This is a great line that I've come up with. The power to change your life is within your grasp by becoming a mental health warrior. The only question is, are you going to use that power? Now, I know the answer is yes. So I hope to see you on the site, bruceshooter.com, Mental Health Warrior Program. We will see you there and keep going on this journey of triumph. Thanks. Bruce signing off. Bye.